Welcome to the Ask for Football Army Football Show. The Army Football Show is an insider's guide for cadets, old grads, and college football fans to follow the Army team throughout their season as they seek to beat Navy and claim the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. Ask for Football is brought to you by our sponsor, Jocelyn Bradley Real Estate. Whether you're buying, selling, or just exploring your options, Jocelyn Bradley is the expert you can trust to navigate the real estate market with ease. Visit jocelynbradley.com to learn more. And let's get started at the Ask for Football Army Football Show.
Gentlemen, happy Tuesday. It is a big Tuesday. There's a lot going on today. One, we obviously have the Ask for Football Army Football Show. Two, there's apparently something going on that's going to, chart the course of civilization. And, three, I know we also have the college football rankings coming out tonight. So I don't know whose bright idea it was to do all three of these major events on one night, but we're going to need our caffeine. But hey, you know what? Maybe we don't, because Army is 8-0, just beat Air Force. I'm still coming off of that adrenaline high. Gentlemen, how are we feeling? For those of you listening, I'm Jordan, your host in Huntsville, Alabama this week, joined by Dan in Coastal Connecticut, Rob in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Trigger Joe. Don't know where you're at, but you're somewhere. So
the home of the big house is how Colonel Rob always introduced me. I'm right down the street from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to say that. And anyway, gentlemen, Army's 8-0, beat Air Force. How are we feeling today?
Good, man. Like I said, I slept on it last night, decided to making this show a public show would be a public service, because who in the hell wants to talk about the election? We're going to be watching it until 3:00 in the morning. And Jordan, as I told you before, welcome from submarine, your submarine ice lounge there with absolutely no pictures in the background. We definitely got to use this year's Ask for Football revenue to get you some background images or something.
That's would probably be wise. I'm on camera. I don't want like a mirror behind me, and whatever I put behind me, people are gonna like psychoanalyze it. So it needs to be very thoughtful, in my opinion. But Dan, right. I appreciate that. Rob, you're in a swing state today. How are you doing? Joe's in swing state too. But Rob, how are you?
Yeah, so I'm doing well, man. Like it's always interesting. I think one of the most interesting thing that is going to happen is what's Army going to do with the quarterback situation? I think we'll get a little bit deeper into it, but I saw some articles. I mean, Notre Dame is paying close attention, just like all the Army fan base is, on who's going to start this week. I am not too concerned with whoever gets to start, because I think there's some keys to victory that we'll break down later in the show.
Yeah. Joe, also in a swing state. How are you?
Good. I think if I took it's funny they call it a Harris poll. I don't know if you've ever heard of those, but it's funny because the other candidate's name is Harris. But if you took a Harris poll around here, I would say this community is leaning a touch right. So, that's where I think that Michigan's at. But anything can happen. I kind of agree with what Rob said about like the quarterback play is going to be the main focus, but I think with what you got out of Coleman on Saturday, and especially with what you got out of Udo, which was great to see, I think he's more than capable of winning this game if they win the turnover battle. And if Bryson Daly needs 10 days before he puts water weight back on, and God, I don't know how sick he was. I know they said it was an illness, but, that can mean anything. So if they need to sit him out one more game before Notre Dame, I think Coleman definitely can get the job done. He got it done convincingly on Saturday, and I think that's a huge thing that I'll talk about later to have under your belt before the meat and potatoes of the schedule come up.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. To your point, Army beat an admittedly bad Air Force team by 3 touchdowns with their backup quarterback running nothing but fullback zones in the second half. It was pretty amazing. Army got the job done. And speaking of getting the job done, our sponsor, Jocelyn Bradley, will get the job done for you when you're trying to buy a home in Fort Liberty. Jocelyn's a veteran who spent her Army career in logistics. She discovered her passion for making a difference in people's lives. She's committed to helping her clients find their dream homes when they're in the market, and she provides exceptional service when she's working for you. Jocelyn has decided to support Ask for Football this season, and she's the right person to get you into the home of your dreams. She has an extended network of veteran realtors who can support you if you're moving somewhere else in the country. If you're looking for a home, Jocelyn should be your first call. Guys, even if you're not moving specifically to Liberty, you still need a realtor you can trust. Jocelyn makes recommendations, won't cost you anything. Reach out and let her put you in touch with someone with the actual integrity in whatever market you're heading to. So we've already kind of talked about it a little bit. Army beat Air Force 20-3, despite not having star quarterback Bryson Daly due to an undisclosed injury. Rumor mill has been wild about Daly this week. It would be irresponsible to speculate or share unconfirmed rumors, even though we have seen some folks do exactly that. We're not going to do that here on this show. As a reminder, Daly's an active duty U.S. Army soldier who happens to play football on TV. Since he cannot profit from his name, image, and likeness, in our opinion, he's not a public figure. So we're not going to air his dirty laundry or speculation. So that's our stance on it. That being said, quarterback Dwayne Coleman got the start this week and played steady, if arguably unspectacular football in relief. 5 for 8 passing for 48 yards with 1 drop, 16 carries for 42 yards. TV commentary pointed out that he made a couple of bad reads in the running game, and we saw a few more offensive penalties that we usually see from Army, especially in the first half. Probably some things related to timing. He played better in the second half, which is a good sign. Kanye Udo really led the team in rushing, though. 22 carries, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7.2 yards per carry. Army's O-line kind of struggled the first half, really saw momentum shift with the O-line in the second half. And then Air Force's best D lineman went out, and we just ran right at where that guy used to be. Air Force never really found an answer. We pretty much pounded Udo through the entire third and fourth quarters until he started breaking off long runs, and that's all she wrote. Defense was really the story in this game. So, credit to Rob's side of the house with defense. Army started their backup quarterback, and Air Force was struggling on offense. It's kind of what we expected. 6 sacks, 3 interceptions, 10 total tackles for loss. Held Air Force to just 117 yards rushing. Chance Cather led all tacklers, 8 tackles, 3 solo. Kyle Lewis, 7 tackles. Caleb Portner, 7 tackles. Nose tackle, Kobe Harris Miller had his arguably best game of the year, 6 tackles, 2 solo. Both of those were sacks. And then interceptions for Max DiDomenico, Jaden Mays, and Casey Larkin. Just 2 plays after the worst PI call we've ever seen. Didn't even touch the receiver, still got called for PI. And then on special teams, Trey Granette made both of his field goals. Jason Wagenseller had to punt 3 times, 44 yards per punt. Down 1 brilliantly inside the 20, might have been inside the 15. And then field position really mattered in this game, typically as it does in a service academy games. Guys, I know that was a lot. I know, Dan, you were at the game kind of watching it and taking it in. How are we feeling about the game? Admittedly, I have some mixed emotions about the game, and I'm kind of trying to sort it out. So, Dan, where are you at today on a Tuesday afternoon?
I feel better about it after watching the TV copy than I did watching it live when it happened. First off, I had an awesome weekend. Got to meet Craig Oxane for the first time in person. Caught up with a bunch of my friends that I haven't seen in a long time. The game was exciting without being like cardiac cadet stressful. So personally, I had a blast. Like I said, after I watched the TV copy and sort of understand why they did some of the things that they did, I appreciated it more. I feel like if Air Force's nose tackle hadn't gone out, they probably would have done more than just those fullback zone runs. But as it was, they ran at the guy's replacement, and Air Force never found a way to stop it, which makes sense. In the moment, though, I was like, okay, Kanye Udo is talented in breaking these runs, but do we really not trust his quarterback that much? And that's not what it happened. And my last thing is Cody Harris Miller is my player of the game, man. James gets on the post-game media calls now, and we actually spent some time Sunday trying to figure out what question we can ask the coaching staff to get them to talk intelligently about what Harris Miller is doing this season, because he's been a revelation on that defense. And, not surprisingly, if you play a 3-4 defense and your nose tackle's playing well, the rest of your defense will play well. But, dude, he was so good in this game. So that's shout out.
Yeah. Rob, how are you feeling? Obviously, great defensive performance. Thoughts?
Yeah, so the first part, selfishly, as a defensive guy, I would have preferred to see a shutout, and I think that was, predicated off of a miscue, right? The fumble that kind of led into the sequence that led to them getting enough yardage to kick the field goal. Don't really like it, but the defense played great. Like you can't deny that they did not perform. The one thing that I did saw was how many times did like the Air Force running back or quarterback get caught up in the line and like they literally like carried him out like he was on a stretcher or something. Like that's got to be embarrassing. Like if you are a college football athlete, or if I'm your coach and you want to be an athlete on my team, go down swinging, man. Like keep running until they tackle you or they drag you down, but don't allow the other team to pick you up and carry you 3 yards in the opposite direction. Because quite frankly, that's embarrassing. And it really shows everybody that's watching the level of commitment that you have to your team. And so when you saw that a lot in the second half, it was like, yeah, this game is over because they just don't want to be there anymore. They didn't want to be there anymore, and you could see it. Enjoyed the game. I like the direct snap to Kanye Udo. We saw that last year quite a bit. We saw it in the first half quite a bit. My only thing is, hey, if you're listening to this, Cody Worley, add a little something else onto it, like a swing pass or a jet sweep or even like a QB throwback. So
we're arguing that Udo should throw the ball?
Yeah. Hey, why not?
Philly special, throw it back to the quarterback?
Yeah, maybe. I'm saying just add a wrinkle is all I'm saying. It doesn't matter what it is. That's a wrinkle in and of itself. But if you have that, people are going to start keying on it. It's just like Jacoby Buchanan coming in on 4th and 1. Like everybody knows where you're going. So if you send the QB in motion, do something with it other than just, direct snap to the fullback. My opinion, I'm not an offensive guy. I'm sure other people will have different analysis on that. But that would be the only thing that I would say is add a wrinkle to that, because that may help you in the Notre Dame game, is to, put some of those talented guys in space and give them the opportunity to move the ball.
Rob, you said Jacoby Buchanan's, and then in my mind, I immediately go to fire the Buchanans, and then I start twitching because the person who says that all the time is not my favorite person, and I'm probably in the minority, but I was less than thrilled to hear his voice Saturday morning. But we won't even open that can of worms. But that's my take on the game.
Certainly.
Joe, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, to touch on what you guys were saying about, it left something to be desired. I think games with teams that are undefeated and teams that have one win are like opportunities for lethargy, bad performances, and injuries. They're really not my favorite. Because I know we were all athletes to some point, and I played tailback, and when we were playing up against a team that we knew we had them, I mean, we went undefeated 3 years in a row. When we were playing against a team we knew had no chance, it was hard to get up for those games. So I think with the Army getting out of the Air Force game with a 3-score win, no key injuries, and playing serviceable football, it is kind of a good tune-up for the intensity they're going to need to bring to North Texas. So, having said that, I love the fact that Army got a chance to test out a kicker for something more than an extra point. I mean, Notre Dame's on the horizon. You're going to want to know you can count on him for 3 if you get stopped, and he delivered. I thought they played fantastic defensively. Larkin's interception was beautiful in the red zone, and then Max with 47 letters in his last name that I'll screw up had a great pick and return. Does start with D. And I love the fact that they got Coleman a quality start before he has to go on the road and play North Texas. And I'll talk more about that later when we review that game. But I think he did exactly what they needed him to do, which was, number one, protect the football, be serviceable as a passer and runner, and finish drives. Was it a sexy game? No, but I mean, remind me of the last time Army cared about being sexy or looking sexy on offense. Get in there and win the game. They're a plug-and-play type of offense, and it was just good to see Coleman come in and not look embarrassingly a step down from Bryson Daly. He threw about the same amount of times. He was about 50% on his completions, and Kanye Udo took the rest from there. So I just think it was great if they got to sit Daly this week, that he got that game out of the way rather than going to North Texas and playing a team that's hungry for a win after 2 straight losses. So that's my take.
Good deal. Anything else on this one, guys? All right,
let's do a
little. Go ahead.
Oh, no, let's drive on.
All right, let's do a fact or fiction review. Rob said Army had 5 tackles behind the line of scrimmage. That was a fact. We had a fact agreement on that one, so everybody gets a dub. We said Jake Rendina carries for at least 50 yards. That was fiction. Rendina only played on special teams. Not sure why, but he was only on special teams this past weekend. Khan said Bryson Daly has more touchdowns than Air Force has points. That was fiction. Air Force didn't play. Army had 4 scores versus Air Force's 3 points. So that's really not bad, all things considered. I said Army wins by 4 touchdowns. That ended up being fiction. Our other sponsor for the As for Football Army Football Show is Craig Oxane. Dan, I know you got to, I wouldn't say sit down with him. I imagine y'all were having a beer in the parking lot. But
we were, in fact, standing, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how Craig can help some of our listeners?
Oh, well, yeah, it was cool. I mean, we just sat there and talked about football. Craig is, of course, a former, I want to say wide receiver or safety for the class of West Point class of 1995. He's also a mortgage broker today, as we've noted on this show endless times, licensed to lend in all 50 states. He is one of the most successful VA lenders in the country, and that is because he offers excellent customer service and super competitive rates. And that's important because the mortgage process is like super confusing. Interest rates jump around all over the place. They are jumping around all over the place, even more right now. And it's, as you're trying to decide, what to do with your mortgage, it's not the time to want to deal with somebody who just doesn't really care about you at all. You'd rather deal with a person than a random big box bank or some mindless website or, God forbid, an AI. And this is how the West Point Network functions, right? Craig is helping us stay in business here at As for Football, and we're helping you get the best deal on a mortgage that we possibly can by introducing you to the guy that you need to meet. And as we've noted, Craig does not charge lending fees for veterans. That's a gigantic savings, like $1,300. $1,300, like that is a lot of money. Save your money. So Craig Oxane, Vice President of Residential Lending for New American Funding in Chicago. His link is on our website. Just go to asforfootball.com, click on the little business card there. You'll fill out a little questionnaire, and you will be talking to Craig in like a couple of hours. It is too easy.
Good deal. Thanks, Dano. All right, hey, let's talk North Texas. North Texas is 5-3, 2-2 in the American Conference. Beat South Alabama impressively to open the season, 52-38. Beat FCS Stephen F. Austin. Lost 61-21 Texas Tech. They beat Wyoming, Tulsa, and FAU. Lost at Memphis 52-44, and then lost at home to Tulane 45-37. This is a good team, but they're all offense, and with that, they've now lost 2 shootouts in a row. Dan, you're our offensive guru. What are they slinging up there in North Texas?
I mean, these guys are good, man. This offense averages 371.6 passing yards per game, which is second in the FBS. They score damn near 41 points per game, ranking them 6th in college football. And it doesn't get talked about a lot because of all the passing, but they also run the ball pretty well, which is because quarterback Chandler Morris is exactly the kind of mobile quarterback who can scramble out of trouble that occasionally gives Army trouble. And if you think back to just this past week in the Air Force game, when Army broke contain and gave up, chunk yardage to Air Force's quarterback, like Chandler Morris can do that, but even better. Yep. On the season, he has completed 224 of 349 passes for almost 2,900 yards, 64% completion percentage, which is excellent. Got 26 touchdowns against just 8 interceptions and 9 sacks. That's also very good. He's also got 42 carries for 160 yards, net out 9 sacks. And I mean, if you watch those Memphis and Tulane games, especially the Memphis game, like dude was running all over the place. He had run for 4 touchdowns. Yeah. He really can be a good runner, but that's not his skill set. I mean, that's not his primary thing, but he's a very good runner. Despite some injuries at running back, the Mean Green also run the ball well, as we said. Running back Shane Porter averaging about 6.4 yards per carry. He's also got 6 catches for 37 yards. And Mackenzie McGill II, 35 carries, about 6 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns. These guys can really run the ball pretty well. And then their main wide receiver is DT Sheffield, 51 catches, 690 yards, 10 touchdowns. That dude is electric. He is so good. 3 other guys have 20-plus catches, and 5 have at least 11. So there are a ton of people that can catch the ball, but Sheffield is the one who's going to kill you.
Yeah. Rob, what are they doing on defense? It must be good, right? The offense is good.
You would think, but onto the defense, like the reality of it is like these guys live and die by the shootout. Seeing that they're from Texas, it absolutely makes sense. The defense is the exact opposite of their offense. They give up 36.9 points a game. That puts them at 128th in FBS. They're averaging 449 yards per game, which is 121st in FBS, and 177.4 yards a game rushing at 4.7 yards per carry. They do two things reasonably well. Third down, they get off around 39%. They get off the field, and then they get sacks. They have 14 this season, so they have a decent aggressive defense, but they are on the field a lot, and so it creates a lot of opportunities for other offenses to score against them. Linebacker Jalen Smith has 55 tackles, 21 solo, 2 passes defended, and a pick. Safety Jaden Hill has 45 tackles, 40 solo, 1 sack, and 2 passes defended and a pick. Overall, the 3 of the team's top 5 tacklers are linebackers. The other 2 are safeties, but that does not explain how bad their rushing defense is. Their defensive line is not very good. They definitely don't get a lot of tackles for loss, and that, they have issues getting into the backfield, getting penetration. And so I think if there was a defensive matchup, or if there's a matchup to watch, and again, I always say this every week, but like if you really want to watch a good matchup, the front 7 is probably going to be where it's at, because Army's offensive line significantly matches up pretty well with the North Texas defensive line, and so there's going to be a lot of give and take in the trenches during that game.
Yeah, and then on special teams, they have place kicker Kali Numa, 41-41 on extra points this season, 9 out of 11 on field goals. Missed a chip shot, and then 1 from 40 yards out. Punter Will Carroll doesn't really get a lot of work, but he tends to average about 45 yards a punt. Betting line opened at Army -3.5. Rose as high as Army -6.5. Is now around Army -5.5. Over under at 65 has now slid to 63.5. Denton, Texas is expecting showers in the morning, followed by sun in the afternoon, highs in the mid-60s, winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Sounds like a pretty good game. Pretty good day for, I almost said golf, but football. It would be a good day to golf too. Joe, what's your takes on the game? I know you're kind of listening, and you've kind of hinted that you have some analysis on Coleman and Daly dropping on us.
Yeah, and it's not going to be, it might not be as deep as you just made it sound, but obviously it matters if Bryson Daly is a scratch, and something tells me that he's going to be. I think having said that, I think the feather in the Black Knights cap is that Coleman got that quality start against a team who's always a rival, whether they're a down year or not. He had, and this is going to sound repetitive, but no turnovers and was serviceable in the running and passing game. Army convincingly won the football game with him under center, and that's a huge advantage to have that game behind you to go on the road to play a team like North Texas that's going to be hungry to win. And they have lost some shootouts, but I think with what I saw in the Tulane game, they're going to have real problems with Kanye Udo if they can run the ball effectively, because I saw some terrible safety angles. Just not a lot of speed on the back end to catch players on these chunk plays, and just a lot of bad gap play. Their defense plays undisciplined. So, that's the thing I love about this Army team also, is that they get plug and play. They don't usually, rebuild, they reload. So when Bryson Daly's out, Kanye Udo says, "Hold my beer, watch this," and goes off for almost $160 and 2 scores. That's my guy this week. If it was up to me, I'd say, Kanye, get your rest, buddy, because you're going to get 35 touches on Saturday. I think the difference maker is going to be the run game of Army versus that North Texas run defense. And I'll spare anybody else that's watching the suspense. They don't defend the run very well at all. I believe that Kanye Udo is going to have 3 TDs and over 200 all-purpose yards, and one of those TDs is going to put the game away late. And I think that the battle in the trenches is going to be evidently won at about mid-time in the third quarter when those guys start getting tired. And I think Army's going to start opening some gaps. And I think their offense is going to be able to do what they want to do enough. And their pass defense is definitely something that's going to get tested. But the last 2 games where Chandler Morris threw for over 440 yards, they lost. So usually when they have to throw like that, it's because they're playing from behind, and they were behind Tulane by about 3 scores late. and they got 2 quickies. So I think Army's going to be able to. They're going to be able to run the ball effectively enough and bend but not break on defense and come away with a win. I think they cover. I think they win by a touchdown.
All right, that's a bold prediction. Rob, do you agree?
Yeah. So the first thing, the scary part of it is, and I'm not as optimistic as Joe, but I think this will come down to maybe a last possession game, just because the offense can score so many points for North Texas. I mean, that's kind of interesting because Army has had, running quarterback threatening all season, with Cam Fancher at FAU. They've been able to contain it. The defensive line is playing great, man. They're staying in their rush lanes. They're creating opportunities, but the explosive plays that we have seen has been that 1 or 2 quarterback scrambles that kind of gotten loose, or the guy kind of gets out of the pocket, sets the edge, and gets a over the shoulder throw because the defensive back is in a bad spot trying to decide to defend a run or the receiver. And so those are the kind of situations that, are a little bit concerning. But that said, the defense is being lights out. But hey, it's typical Army football game, right? You've got this quarterback that could potentially put his team on his shoulders and win the game for him. So how do you do that? How do you prevent that guy from doing that exact same thing? Is control the ball. So, maybe we don't want Coleman throwing. Like if Army throws 0 passes and they run 45 times the game and win by, score and a field goal, cool. I think that's typical Army football scenario. As you have a talented quarterback, how do you win? You keep him on the sidelines and force him to play catch up. And I think that's the real thing. So run the damn ball. Hey, man, another, got to give the hat tip to the Army defense again, and I'll wrap this up, man. Coach Woody has done a great job. The front 7 looks amazing this year. Lots of stunts, lots of hand play. Guys are moving across the defensive line. I think North Texas, as was noted by Zop, they're a solid offensive line, but I think scheme-wise, we may be able to create some opportunities, but we may have to stay closer to our base defense and not as many stunts on the defensive front because that Morris will take off and start running.
Yeah. It's a great point. Dano?
If they can keep Sheffield from going off and just lighting them up for big plays and force North Texas to play down in the red zone and score touchdowns in a short area rather than giving up long over-the-top passing plays, they should be okay because we've seen the Army defense play well in red zone a lot. But if they're, there's so many weapons on this team, and Sheffield is the best, but he's only one of them. And if they can just burn this defense on pure speed, that's a problem. I don't know how much I think that's going to happen, but it's definitely a concern. With that said, if I knew Bryson Daly was playing, I wouldn't be as concerned just because I know what Army football looks like, and he's been playing it at as high a level as we've ever seen. I'm really curious to see what Dwayne Coleman will look like in his second start, though. And, he has the ability to harness the full power of Army's triple option attack. Like, he throws the ball really well. He's got a lot of speed. Like, I think we all kind of want to see what he can do in this second start against a non-Service Academy defense, especially one that isn't super disciplined about its running defense lanes. So I don't know, man. He's definitely looked good at times this season. If we get like the best of Dwayne Coleman, I'll feel good about it.
Yeah, Dan, I echo that sentiment of, if Bryson Daly was playing, I'd be very confident, or at least more confident than I am now. But just kind of that unknown, I thought that I agree with you. Coleman has played well, especially in the fourth quarter games against a burnout team. But, going against Air Force, I was a little underwhelmed. Realistically, that's our 8th game of the season. He's played, I think, a combined 6 quarters of football, if that, before this point. So it's not entirely surprising that he wasn't as dynamic. We know the option takes time. Daly's been running it for 2 or 3 years at this point. But I agree, we're going to need to see more out of him, or the defense is going to need to be absolutely incredible and not let them score any points.
You have to remember, though, that that's against an Air Force defense that sees the triple option all the time. That's
fair.
So they went to the rocket toss once, maybe twice. It didn't really go anywhere. They went to the midline triple exactly once. That didn't go anywhere. And Ross Tucker on the call even pointed it out, like on the midline triple, they said here's the safety coming around the backside to make the play, which is a thing that you can totally do if you know a lot about this offense. But if you are North Texas and you don't know a lot about this offense, I don't know that I think we're going to see that happen.
That's fair. For whatever reason, I feel like North Texas has had our number. Like North Texas and Tulane, teams in green, we kind of struggle with. I know Seth Luttrell's not there anymore, and different coach, different regime, but I agree. Jim said ran vanilla offense against Air Force. More the playbook opens up. Completely agree. I think we'll definitely see more this week than we saw against Air Force.
Yeah, and I got a quick note too. So this will be the first time that North Texas is seeing the option this season because they don't have Navy on the schedule either. So like, how do you prepare for that when you don't have an option team like routinely? So you're trying to sprinkle that in throughout the course of your season and prepping. And like, yeah, they probably got more reps in when they had Wyoming, Tulsa, and Florida Atlantic on the schedule. But, you're focusing in on Memphis and Tulane for sure because you know that those are going to be tough contests. So you got back-to-back tough games that you probably didn't put as much of your defense in against the triple as you would have. And this is your first time seeing it, and it's late in the year. So, I mean, not to be all doom and gloom, but I legitimately think like Army's got a decent shot. I think there'll be a much more open playbook against, North Texas. And, when you look at the history of the series, Army is still up on them 5-2. They lost to them that one time in the regular season and came back and beat them in the bowl game, which was an interesting.
And then they lost to them again in the next regular season.
Yeah,
that was a 3-game set.
So it's like you really don't know. But I will also, caution everybody to say like this is a different Army team going into the North Texas game than they were that season where they split with them during the bowl game.
And to touch on what Rob was saying. And Dano, I saw some really undisciplined safety play where that safety from North Texas would come screaming up and almost pass the running back at full speed, and then turn and so to speak on what we're saying about the playbook not really opening up, and maybe they do open it up this week. Boy, if they can really pound the rock a couple of first downs. There is no reason why Army, if Coleman is as good of a passer as we think he is, can't dump one over those safeties' heads, and maybe Army hits a big play action home run where nobody's home, because North Texas is a defense you definitely can do that against.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll see what happens. I think we're probably not going to know until whoever walks out of the tunnel, and I don't think North Texas is going to know who walks out of the tunnel either, quarterback. Which as a fan is a little nerve-wracking. I imagine Jeff Monken probably absolutely loves it that people don't know what he's going to do.
And they run the offense so differently too. I mean, if you get Bryson Daly out there, you're looking at a big dose of quarterback power and one fullback. And if you get Dwayne Coleman, you got a different fullback and a completely different look. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting either way. All right, hey, let's get into our fact or fiction. Rob, you're up first.
I'm going to say fact or fiction. Army defense will get 2 turnovers this game because I think Chandler Morris is going to play from behind, and our secondary is good, folks. Like the secret's out. He's going to try and get to one of his deep guys, and he's going to turn it over because he's going to rush. I think they're going to be behind probably midway through the third quarter, try and put some extra oomph on it, and Army's going to come away with 2 interceptions or 2 turnovers this game. What are your thoughts?
I will say fact. I am a little nervous about that, but North Texas also had a few fumbles in some of the highlights I was watching today. So yeah, I'll say fact. I think that is an area that Army can exploit, especially like I said, if they can force red zone offense instead of just explosive offense. I think you got a decent shot.
Yeah, I'm going to agree because I think we're going to need that. North Texas has such a dynamic offense. We're going to need some turnovers to kind of stop that momentum and give us an opportunity, especially if Daly's not playing and we're not going to be as consistent on offense.
Joe?
Yeah, line them up, gents. We're all drinking the same thing. I'm saying fact. I think they get exactly 2. And I think Army's secondary is welcoming this challenge and saying, "Well, go ahead and try and throw out for 450 on us and see if we don't pick a couple for you." Yeah, I like it. I think that with the pressure they get on the quarterback, I mean, Army did have a near sack then pick. I mean, that ball that Larkins picked off was a wobbler because the quarterback was getting drilled as he threw it. So if they can heat the quarterback up, get a body on him in the middle of a throw, and just like Daniel said, do not let what's his last name?
Sheffield.
Sheffield. I keep wanting to call him Shepard. Do not let DT Sheffield get loose because that dude is a water bug. He's 170 pounds and he's the number 1 receiver on a team that throws 50 times a game. He's fast. So I think Army gets the 2.
Cool. All right, Dano.
Fullback Jake Rendina actually plays some snaps this week in his role as a blocking fullback on quarterback power plays. And I don't mean this to ask who you think will be starting. Start with Rob.
Yeah, I'll say fact. Like I said, I think he likes to get in there, and that may be a wrinkle that we bring in as a QB power. I mean, like
with
that
Coleman.
wouldn't surprise. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me because Coleman he's a solid runner. I mean, he's turned some things on before, so why not let him run it more? I think you have to be a little bit more conservative going into, a rivalry game with the Service Academy.
Yeah, that's true.
You're going to be conservative. I think, Coach Worley opens up the playbook a little bit more, runs Coleman a little bit more, and if you get up on the scoreboard, then we get to see the threes get out there at least at the QB position. So,
Joe?
I'm down with that.
I'll say fact. It's the law of averages. It's probability. I say he gets in there.
Oh, now I feel like I made it too easy. Jordan?
Fact agreement.
That's awful. I should say fiction on my own one, but I really don't want to because y'all know I have a little man crush on Jake Rendina.
It's okay. We all do. It's okay.
The bromance is real.
I mean, I feel good about it, so it's fine.
That's fine. That's fine. All right, Joe, what do you got for us?
Okay, the Army defense holds North Texas, that's averaging almost 41 points a game, to under 30 points.
Oh, dude. I'll tell you what, if they do, they're going to go way up in the AP poll or coaches poll. I mean, that would be super impressive. The mitigating factor being that if they can hold the ball and drive these long drives, that might happen. But man, that 2017 Army North Texas game was a track meet. I mean, you just had Ahmad Bradshaw pitching all over the place for everything. Yeah, Jim Zappelis on chat says fiction, and I think I'm going to agree with him and say fiction.
I'm going to say fiction as well. Sorry, Joe.
I mean, because they gave up 28 points to ECU, although ECU is looking now like a better offense with that new quarterback in there and slowing that tempo down a bit. But unfortunately, I really think this is going to be a track meet.
You know what, Joe? I'm not going to leave you out on the island. I'm going to say fact as the defensive guy. I would love to see it. I honestly, I just want to see an Army shutout this season. I don't know if it's going to happen. We've come close a couple of times, and I'm okay with that. But defense,
they're not going to shut out North Texas.
Man. No, they're not going to shut them out. I think they'll contain them though. I mean, if you look at Army's history with running quarterbacks, and we say that, Cam Fancher did nothing against them because they helped them contain. But what that did was it changed the way that the defense looked. They weren't doing a lot of stunts. They weren't doing a lot of movement up front, but they were still able to keep that guy contained. And so he wasn't able to break loose. So I think that will affect the rhythm of the game. And, as Greg says in the chat as well, time of possession will keep the score down. I think Army's going to have to put together some drives. Although we want to see explosive plays, those are great because we love watching Kanye Udo run for 45 yards and a touchdown. But I think we've got to slow the pace down and, grind it out against these dudes.
Greg says the CFP ranks Army at 25th. Is that live?
Oh, yeah. It was 7 Eastern.
Is that breaking news?
I think it might be breaking news.
It must be because John Morrell says Army number 25 in the initial CFP.
Oh, all right. That's dual verification. Fact.
Hey, you know what kills the track meet?
What's that?
7-minute drives. And I wouldn't care if Army started off at the 20 and averaged 3 yards of play every drive because that means that they get first downs.
I don't think that's going to happen, man. They're going to do one of those midline triple plays to like Noah Short, and you're going to see his wheels.
I think Army's run rush offense is going to take enough time off the clock. I think they win 35-28. I'm saying fact on my own.
All right.
All right. So mine, Brendan, I'm going to go ahead and use yours. Army falls behind on the scoreboard for the first time this season. We are the only team in the country who has not trailed for a second. Does that come to an end against North Texas this week?
Fiction.
Yeah, I'll say fiction, but it depends on the coin toss. You know, like that's really what it is. Whoever gets the ball first is probably gonna score. I mean, like given the way that both of these teams' offenses are working, like if you defer to the second half, guess what? You're gonna get scored on. I mean, that's just kind of the way that this game is gonna look like.
With the way Tulane jumped all over this North Texas team at home, I think that Rob's right. The coin toss means a lot, but I think Army has a better chance than North Texas does to score every time they're on the field because of the mismatch with North Texas's weaknesses, their defense. And I think Army's going to be able to run on them. So I'll say fiction. I'll say Army gets out to a 10-0 lead and never loses it.
I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to say fact. I just think statistically, if it's going to happen against anybody, it's going to be North Texas or Notre Dame. So I'm going to say fact. I'm sorry. I hate to do it, but.
So against Tulane, North Texas went 4 of 13 on third down.
It's not great.
And hold on, I will pull up Memphis. And against Memphis, they went 5 of 13. No, sorry, they went 9 of 20 on third down. Well, 9 of 20 is not bad. So, but still, so if Army can hold North Texas just a couple of incomplete passes, force them to punt a few times, then this game looks different, I think, than because I don't think they're going to give up a bunch of explosive plays. So I guess that's kind of how I see it is. If Army can get that punt first, then they got a decent chance to hold serve. So that's why I said fiction.
They're going to have to defend a couple of absolute bombs early.
Absolutely. No, I agree completely.
Yeah.
North Texas takes their shots. So
yeah, no, I agree completely.
Yeah, the best thing that they can do is pop Chandler Morris in the mouth, early. Because if you get that guy, if you get that guy looking for footsteps, like he's going to pull it and he's going to run. And I would much rather have him try and beat us with his legs than his arm. Even though he throws from behind a lot, he can take over a ball game. So if he's running scared rather than aggressively playing the quarterback position, I think that's advantage to us.
I don't like his body language when he takes a big hit. I noticed that against Tulane. If he's my quarterback, that makes me worry a little bit. So if Army roughs him up, they might get it in between that 6-inch space between his ears and mess him up because he didn't look like the same guy for about 10 minutes after he got hit against Tulane.
All
right. Hey, Astro football is growing, especially the written content. Omar's recent piece on the Army Air Force history surprised us and became one of our most successful articles ever. And then Dan's Quick Thoughts article popped up organically and in his and a bunch of other friends' news feeds. So something is working. We've also, Dan's pulled the analysis, and folks who like As for Football really like As for Football. If that's you and you'd like to help us grow, we've got a couple of ways that you can. The easiest thing you can do is forward our weekly mailer to your friends who also like Army football. If you're online and you like Army, you've seen our stuff. There's a lot of old grads, especially emphasis on the old, who aren't on Facebook and Twitter, but they check their email. They might like Ask for Football, but they don't even know that we exist. So if you could forward that email to them, we'd really appreciate it. If you're not getting an email from us, consider signing up for our mailing list. And of course, if you really like Ask for Football and you want more, consider joining us on Patreon. We give our patrons extra written articles, early access to shows, and even our First Tee Club for top-level patrons. If you're listening to this, thank you very much for your support. We couldn't do this without you. Dano, I know we both have a favorite thing. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so we've got a new web-only sponsor this week, and Lindsay is great. and it's awesome that, you know, we worked with her to get inside her budget for what she could afford. But we said, listen, let's shout you out at least once, so people are going to see the ad. They want to know what the hell it is. So, do you require assistance with your personal military casework, a congressional inquiry, or proposed legislation? Have you exhausted all internal avenues related to your case? Consider LR Lobbying as a resource. Lindsay Rowland is a 10-year Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran recognized with the Bronze Star Medal and Combat Action Badge. As an experienced lobbyist in Washington, D.C., she can elevate your case to the next level. She possesses a comprehensive understanding of Congress and the legislative process. Visit her website today at lrlobbying.com to schedule a complimentary consultation, which may include pro bono services. Alternatively, you may contact Lindsay directly via email. You can find that on our website. If you go to the supporters tab, there's a new Congress commencing on January 3rd. So it's imperative that you get your voice heard. So really what she's doing is she's helping soldiers who the stuff is not working with the chain of command. And so they need to go the congressional inquiry route, which is a thing that you sometimes have to do with the Army, as we all know. And Lindsay is going to help you get that process rolling. So, and she told me she does a lot of pro bono work. So this is, you know, she's about helping soldiers, and we're trying to help her. So you'll see her ads out there, and that's it. You want to learn more?
Okay, touch on that, Dano?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to tell you guys, I'll make it as quick as possible. The story of the congressional inquiry that I was involved in was my brother, Justin Rollins, was killed March 5th by IED, 2007. And the last pictures, we raised some Iraqi puppies. We had a base dog, and there's no veterinarians over there, so they're just having puppies everywhere. Well, we got care packages from veterinarians, and we're immunizing the dogs, and our medics were helping out. And the last picture Justin's mom had of him was him and I with these puppies. And she went and got a congressional inquiry and said, I want that dog. My son died, you know.
Yeah.
That picture I have of him, I want it. And they made it happen. And they actually made a show on National Geographic about the dog coming home. And we like washed it in the washing machine. We hadn't turned it on, but we like filled it up with soapy water. And we're like, it was like whining. We're like, dude, you just won the puppy lottery. You're getting out of here. You're going to America. And the dog just passed away last year. It lived to be 14. And I still play Words with Friends with Justin's mom occasionally. And we talk all the time. And it was just really cool to see a congressional inquiry work some magic. So I wanted to touch on what you were talking about.
Yeah, you know, listen, the Army is a different experience, and sometimes you just got to reach outside your immediate system, and that is okay. That process exists for a reason. So, yeah, we've got that now on the website, and if you need that, like, we're here to help. So we'll kick it back over to you, Jordan.
Thanks, Dano. All right, it's election night. We've tried to stay out of it. I did see a tweet that I thought was kind of funny and related to college football. Not my tweet. I'm not going to take credit. It's from Maryland Sports Report. College game day set up outside the Capitol building for election coverage would be elite. Imagine Corso putting on a Trump or Kamala head at the end of the show. Just imagine all of our friends from ESPN College Game Day on the steps of the Capitol doing coverage. You got Coach Saban with the election map, kind of breaking it down, what we're seeing. And then I also saw a response to that. And, Pat McAfee brings out an illegal immigrant to kick a 50-yarder to win their citizenship. So, taking the kicking to kind of the next level. I think that's a massive missed opportunity for ESPN and also kind of us as a nation. I would love to watch that crew kind of break down election night coverage.
Could you imagine Corso giving a not so fast, my friend, on the winner?
I got the swing states, and who do you think the swing state's going to go to? Yeah, not so fast. Yeah. That'd be pretty good. Well, hey, thank you, listeners, for bearing with us on this election night. We know there's a lot of things that you could be doing besides listening to Ask for Football. So for those of you that are catching the show live, we appreciate it. Thank you for all your support this season. It's been a great year. Army's 8-0. We're going to go 9-0 in Denton, Texas this week against the Mean Green. So go Army, beat North Texas.
Beat them.
Beat them. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Ask for Football Army Football Show. Big thanks to our sponsor, Jocelyn Bradley Real Estate, for supporting us and the Long Gray Line. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, reach out to Jocelyn. She's got your back. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show with your friends. And as always, beat Nate.